I want to welcome everybody today to our Talk with Doc. I am honored to have, again, a good friend of mine, Tiffany Crow, joining us. Today we are talking on buckling down on behaviors at home and how to deal with behavior in the home. And so want to welcome Tiffany. And Tiffany, before we kind of get going and everything, why don't you just introduce yourself and let everyone know about you and who you are?
Oh, okay. I am a former teacher. I taught elementary school and a self-contained autism unit. While I was doing that, I decided that there was more. I wanted to do more to help students and families. And so I went back to school to obtain my master's degree in applied behavior analysis. So I am now a behavior analyst, and I use those skills to go into public schools in general education and special education and help them plan for behavior. Most of the time, kind of like what we're going to be talking about today, that is where you have a problem behavior that you want to decrease. But there's also another side of that where we have a lack of behavior, or someone's not exhibiting a behavior that you want to increase. So it's really just the increase or decrease of certain behaviors, teaching skills. And then I also had the opportunity for several years to be the special needs minister at my church, where that's how I ran into Doc and got to meet Doc, meeting up with different coordinators and ministers and talking about how we can take those skills and apply them into churches, and same things apply for home. So I'm excited to talk today about some of the things we might can do at home as parents and caregivers.
Absolutely. So thank you so much.
Talk about behavior, Doc. We're gonna have plenty to talk about.
Yeah, that's right. So let's get right in, because I know it's a big topic that every parent deals with, especially parents with individuals with disabilities. Kids with special needs. We were just talking a little bit beforehand. They love to push the envelope. They always try to see how far they can get. But and I've dealt with a lot of families who feel bad for their child. They just don't want to tell them no about anything, but it's vital. We need to, teach our kids, manners. We need to be able to set limits and go through things. So I think those are a lot of things we'll be talking about. So, what are some of the most important things we need to know when it comes to behavior?
Yeah, well, I want to disagree with you on that point, and that oftentimes I hear some of the hardest things to really determine is if this is naughty behavior or if it's behavior because of their disability.
Right.
And really we need to work on it on both sides, right? So we might feel differently about it, but our feelings don't really matter. When we're approaching this behavior, we have a behavior that may not be socially appropriate or in the best interest of their child and the environment that they live in, and it needs to be addressed. I also want to say that I think that we went with the right title. I've been thinking about it, this buckling down with behavior. When we first started this stay at home, the talk was really more about we're in crisis mode, right? Everything has changed. Our schedules have changed, what our lives look like, our services, and we had a lot of individuals having new and extreme behaviors, and families were kind of in crisis mode. Let's try to figure out how we can manage this immediately. And I would think that at this point, this is a gross assumption, but we kind of know what we're looking at now. We've been in this for a while, and so it's kind of time to say, okay, I'm ready to approach some of these behaviors. I'm surviving, and now I can move from surviving to potentially thriving, right? I'm going to start changing some of these behaviors. And that buckling down may look like I'm buckling down to teach them we're going back to a new schedule of going back to school, or I'm buckling down where I'm looking at starting homeschooling again, or that routine at home. And so I need a fresh look at this, and I want to approach it again in a more systematic way. And I'm ready to do that because it's time to buckle down, right?
Right.
So in your description, you talked about identifying problem behaviors and then identifying why they're happening. So I think that's a good place to start. You good with that?
Absolutely.
One of the things that I think, well, I know that you need to consider is the function of the behavior, the function is really important. And really what the function means is, why is this behavior happening? And we'll talk more about that and how you can kind of identify it. And then the other is the topography. And really the topography is kind of the form. If you think about when I learned this term, all I really knew about was a map, right? Where they'll actually put dimensions on the map and you can fill it. What does that behavior feel like, look like? It's the description of the actual behavior. That can be helpful for us also when we are looking at behavior and how we're going to change this. So the topography, I think, is pretty easy. You're going to look at what kind of behaviors are occurring that I find that need to be changed. And you want to look at socially significant behaviors, which this means they don't just annoy you. These are behaviors that need to be changed to open new opportunities for the individual. It's within their best interest to change this. If they change this behavior, they would be able to learn this skill, which would make them more independent, or it would open opportunity for them to make more friends, have more relationships. So when you look at changing behaviors, look at that part. So this could be the physicality, there's physical aggression, self-interest behavior, non-compliance, which is really just they are kind of refusing to do anything that you ask, maybe oppositional. There may be some self-harm, property destruction, and these can be kind of exhibited in a range from a lower functioning where you're just seeing the physical parts of behavior to more high functioning where that self-interest behavior or self-harm might be talk of harming themselves. So this is kind of the topography. How long does it last? Where is it happening? You know, kind of those kind of things. And then the function is not really looking at what behavior is happening, but really trying to look at when this behavior happens, what are they getting out of it? Are they getting a large amount of my attention? Maybe it breaks down into categories. Are they getting my attention? Are they getting something that they want, like a tangible, a preferred activity? Or are they getting out of something? Are they escaping something that they don't want to do? And then the other category falls into sensory, where it feels good within themselves. Whatever that behavior is, they don't need anyone else in the room. No one else has to be there to perpetuate that behavior. It will happen on their own. So when we look at these behaviors, we see the behavior happening. When we start to think about what happens afterwards, and you have to have a really clear perspective. Am I dropping everything I'm doing and running over and giving high quality attention, even if I'm scolding or reprimanding? Are they getting that attention from me? Am I giving up and just letting them roll on the floor? Call it the alligator roll, right? Exactly. And then I say, they don't have to brush their teeth anyway, right? We'll do it tomorrow. Whatever it is, you have to kind of look with a clear perspective. And I feel like I'm kind of breezing through this part, but do you think that I should dive deeper in that, Doc, or do we have some other resources where people could look into the function?
Yeah, we can go a little bit deeper in it because I think it's an important part to really help our families understand.
Okay, and some of the best ways to do this is really through examples. So let's talk about that escape. Escape means not that I physically run away from something. It means I get out of a task or a demand that's asked of me. So if you ask me to put away my dishes after my meal and I just slowly wander off, by the way, I'm using an example from my own house. I just slowly wander off and get busy doing something else, and you never have me put away that dish, you do it for me. I have escaped that task, even if it was a really mellow situation. If you present me with a written activity that I need to do, let's say a worksheet, or you want me to journal something, and I tear it up and potentially up the ante and I eat that business, and you don't provide me with another paper to do it, I don't have to do the task, right? So I escape the task. Same, kind of a principal situation at school. If you're asked to do something, you misbehave and you're sent to the office, typically that task doesn't follow you in the office and you get something else in the office, or you don't have to do it. So whatever follows directly after that behavior is that is the function. That's why it's happening. And it is actually, let's say this is the behavior, this function, I'm getting out of doing stuff by eating my work. I'm getting out of stuff by hitting my head and saying, I don't want to do it, right? And you take it away saying, no, don't hurt yourself. I am getting out of that task and it's going to make that behavior I'm doing increase. I'm going to keep doing it because it's working for me.
It's actually a positive reward.
Yes. It is positive reinforcement for sure, because it's making that behavior increase. Yeah. So you have to really look, if you have a behavior, that's kind of something that you can tell if you have a behavior that's increasing, whatever's happening afterwards is making that behavior increase. And so one of the really cool things about this, and I think really to consider at home, is this shouldn't be really cost heavy, because whatever it is that's happening after the behavior, you already have at your house. It's already free. What you have to do is learn what it is and then figure out how to place it in different places around the behavior to change that behavior. And we'll talk a little bit about that in our behavior strategies. Let's see. Talking about attention maintained behavior is going to be the same thing. We kind of use some of those examples, but let's just say I like to run out of the house and I go to dangerous places. I have some friends here who like to play on a train track naked, and forget naked, we're on a train track, right?
Exactly, right.
We have many variables, but it causes a large amount of attention. The family is going, the school's contacted, school staff's out looking, the police department, the fire department, everyone is out. And when we find the kid, guess what? Everyone's there, and it's huge amount of attention. So you have to be really careful and see, oh, wait a minute, this is a really elevated amount of attention. You catch your kid. I read a story about a kid who escaped on the beach. When you catch them and maybe you have your spouse there, you're escalated, and you and your spouse may each be on the side holding hands or under arms or however intense it is, right? And you're talking to each other. I lost my shoes back there by the dunes. I didn't even have time to whatever. I'm sweating so bad. And you may not directly be talking to the kid, but they can feel that elevated experience. And so you have to really dig down and say, what's happening after every one of these things? And how do I replicate that somewhere else? That's what you call the functional reinforcer. This environmental feeling, event, experience is what is maintaining that behavior. I want my phone, you don't let me have it. I clear off the table and hit you. And you say, well, I'm not dealing with this today. Get your phone. That is now the ticket to get the phone. That behavior of clearing the table and hitting you is a clear way for them now to get the phone. And unfortunately, it's really, really quick to catch a behavior like that. A quick story, my now 7-year-old, probably 2 years ago in the store, she wanted a piece of candy. And she made a face, and it was like a combo between like the pretty eyes, and a fish face. And so it had something to do like this. And I said, well, since you made that face, you can have it. And I knew when I did it what I was doing, but it was just so funny, right? 2 years later, she's still making that face. I gave in one time. 2 years, she's still giving it a try.
All it takes.
Yes. Yeah. Unfortunately, yes. And so just know, if you found that you've caught yourself a pretty crazy behavior and you look at it and you say, I know, and I did this, right? It's a part of the problem. Just know that's human nature. You are living in your environment with your kids. You're surviving, you're doing things. But now, if we're buckling down, let's identify some of those and let's make some changes to them. So, and that might be a good segue. At any time, we can ask more questions or talk more about the function and identifying. But one of the things I want to encourage you guys buckling down is don't choose everything at once, okay? I would really encourage you to find one of the smaller behaviors that you think you can knock off the list first. One, your loved one is going to feel successful. They're going to meet reward. They're going to meet your praise, and you are going to feel successful, right? It's going to feel like a win for everybody. And you've got one small thing off of your list, and then you can move to the next thing. We shouldn't approach everything at one time. It's going to be too hard, too much change. Think of Dave Ramsey and the debt snowball, if that kind of applies to anybody, right? As you start knocking things off the list, you can apply more of your energy to those behaviors that are going to take more work. That make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Good point, sir.
Okay, so when we start, we say we've got ourselves a behavior or multiple behaviors. There's really two categories that we need to home into in a behavior plan. There's plenty to a behavior plan, but these two I think really hit the broad categories. One is the antecedent strategies, and the other are the consequence strategies. So, Doc, when you're looking at time, if you find we need to move along and I'm still in antecedent stuff, then move me along, okay?
Okay.
And then also something I wanted to tell you, Doc, is I think for applicability, it would be great to add examples to some of the strategies that I'm giving. So if I move along and you think we need to throw in an example, back me up and give me an example, or say, hey, let's add an example to that.
Perfect.
Okay. So we're going to talk about antecedent strategies first. When we're looking at behavior, antecedent is always what comes before that behavior. So it is the time frame before behavior is happening. And so what you need to think about is this antecedent strategy is potentially going to lessen or stop the behavior from happening. If I could get this antecedent strategy happening, there's no need for the behavior to occur. It's often teaching a new behavior, teaching them how to respond differently, or changing your environment to where the behavior won't have a need to occur. Oftentimes, let's just say you find that your individual is exhibiting problem behavior. I've used a lot of self-interest. Let's say verbal aggression. They exhibit verbal aggression, and really this is physical posturing where they're kind of looking like they're going to chest bump you or they're going to hit you, and they're kind of threatening you with some type of aggression. And you find that when this happens, they often get access to their phones. You kind of are over it, they're over it, and they get phones. So you've determined the function is their phone. So I've caught a behavior of verbal aggression. They're getting their phone. My antecedent strategy needs to be some way to more appropriately get their phone or make it less of a need. So the less of a need is kind of where you put it on a timed basis. It's a non-contingent strategy, non-contingent reinforcement, where you say, look, I've only been letting them have their phone 2 times a day. They've been on it for an hour. So I'm going to spread it out, put it on a timer, and every time the timer goes off, they have time for their phone. Then if they have that much allotted time for their phone, they shouldn't have this big need to bring this verbal aggression to you to get that phone. So it alleviates the need for the behavior. So I give them more access to whatever it is. If they like a specific food and you find that they're doing this to get access to that food, this particular strategy, you just break the food into smaller portions and allow it more throughout the day. If it's your attention, the same thing. I think that this is probably all parents' issues right now is attention, because if you're working at home, your attention's really divided. And then if you're not working at home, your attention's just really divided. You know, in a world of technology where our phone has our books and our phones and our bills and everything else. So if you find, man, I'm really giving a lot of attention whenever they say that they're going to hurt themselves, or I'm really dropping everything, saying, hey, let's go get some ice cream and talk about these deep feelings that you're having, you realize you caught yourself a fish, and I call it a fish, sorry. You caught yourself a big behavior, right? And acknowledge that and say, I've got to give that high quality attention before this behavior is exhibited. And I'm human too, so let's put myself on a timer, right? I'll give myself a timer maybe 2 to 3 times a day. I'm gonna just stop, and it's gonna be about you, and let's do something special, right? And I think that that really would build rapport between you and your loved one, and it lessens the need for those bold behaviors. I've mentioned some self-harm talk a couple times, Doc, and one thing that I really want to mention is if you do have an individual that you are concerned about self-harm, I think I know some of these strategies could apply for you at home, particularly while you're waiting on a session, but I really want to encourage you to seek professional help, counseling. Yes. And I'm sure the Doc site probably has some resources that you can go to. These are things that you can talk about with the counselor, but definitely don't just apply these behavioral strategies. You want to go to a professional in person for your individual. Okay, more antecedent strategies. We good so far?
Yeah, doing well.
Okay, give me a gold star. Oh, we're doing well on time, right?
You got it, girl.
Okay, so there's some kind of general questions you can ask yourself when I'm looking to put up some antecedent strategies to decrease this problem behavior from needing to occur. Does my individual need more information? It could be that in this situation, they don't have enough information. So that's one of the reasons that schedules are so useful for individuals with disabilities. Early schedules turn out to be handy for all of us because quite a few of us are kind of floundering, saying, I don't know, and finding we waste a great deal of time because we're not in our typical routine, right?
Right.
Schedules are kind of hard right now, but if you can make a schedule and say, here's what it looks like today, and every morning you kind of review. I just have a picture of this is a visual schedule. It's for, I would say an elementary age, and it kind of covers the basis because it's got images and words on there. If you have a higher functioning individual, just put the words on there. You can even make it where it's a checklist to kind of start like a task list building towards adulthood and independence in doing that. And then this is an image of a schedule, and each one of these are movable parts. And so in this time of life, I would think that you'd have a whole other section of alternative activities. And each morning you would say, our routine is to look at our schedule and what's different. Because who knows?
Real quick, there's a lot of great apps now that are out there that you can do this, that you can have it on, phones and iPads. So, and you can, create it however you need throughout the day that really help at home. So that's a great resource to use. And like you said, that can really help with behaviors, just because by letting your child know the routine and what's to come, it helps them so much know what's happening and what to expect.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm even going to put myself in this category right now. There is just a lot of downtime.
Oh yeah.
It seems like you fall into one of two categories. You're extremely busy, or there's a lot of downtime. And I've seen this with family members as well, where the kids are just left to the whole day to come up with their own activities. And I think that it's going to turn unhealthy on us if we don't change that pretty quickly. And even myself, I keep saying, okay, we need to come up with some kind of routine, and I don't get to it. And I think making that schedule, even if it's for the whole family, particularly when school starts back, you want to get in the routine. It'll help everybody. You'll feel more successful at the end of the day. And also, the apps are cool. And Teachers Pay Teachers has a lot of really cool, easy resources for that too. Okay, so schedules, they work for all of us and throughout life. Often there's a big kind of disagreement about schedules once a kid learns the schedule. Do we need to use it still? But really, if you think about that routine and setting up the executive functioning of continually checking a schedule, you want to continue to do it, because later in life, when we're late in high school into job training or home, where you're at home and you have tasks and want to be a productive member of your family, you need that task list, and they need that ability to be able to know, to check it kind of routinely. Like, I've got to check my schedule, but also to know how to create it themselves. That's kind of the end goal. Next is social stories. There's a lot of social stories going around on social media right now. What social stories do is they can talk about a specific skill that you want to see. There's a lot about face mask wearing right now, how to wear your mask, why do we wear your mask? You'll see other people wearing your mask. I think these are great. They're new skills. I happened to walk into Target the other morning behind a kid I know, and it's always fun because oftentimes the parents don't know me, and so I just had to dig in my purse for something and watch what was going on for a little bit. And he was with his 2 caregivers, and he was not having it. He was not having the mask, and he was not having even going into the store. And I don't know how much training they did ahead of time, but I messaged his mom to say how wonderful the caregivers were and how patient. And she said that was his first time out of the house in like 6 months. So it's anticipated, right? We anticipate this. So one of the things you can do are use these social stories. Even better is to use a personal social story that goes more to their own places, their own face, people that they see. Or a step better is video modeling, particularly if they're a kid who likes technology, and they'll watch videos of themselves or people they love. I once made a video where I wanted the student to think it was them doing the behavior. So I put a hat on and then rubber banded my cell phone off the bill of the hat, and it showed the view of my hands doing the task. So they couldn't see that it was my face doing it. So it kind of gives the view that they are being successful doing this certain task. That video modeling has really shown very successful. So take your cameras out, show them what you want them to do from their perspective, and kind of talk about that ahead of time. That provides them that information. AutismHelper.com, she has a lot of kind of cool, they're kind of young kid printable things, but those would give you some good ideas. Also, you guys, I don't know if you guys have talked a lot about social stories. This is a printout of a social story that I've done in the past for a kid, and I'm going to tell you I do them through Google Slides. Some people, you can do them, make them however you want to. I personally like Google Slides because you can insert videos and then you can share them with the family, and they can watch them on their iPad. Like, they don't have to have like Word or some kind of special document on their iPad. So this is just one that shows, I'm not going to go through all of it. It was a guy who was having trouble transitioning to a new room at church. It shows him, where are you going to be going? Stop, we're not going there anymore. And it has pictures of our actual area and has brief conversations. And then some of these pictures kind of shows them what's going to be in there. These actually were images that you could click on, and there was a video of walking through the hallway. So the more that you can do that with their own environment, their own pictures instead of a cartoon, I think that's better.
Absolutely.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I agree completely. My experience has been when you can have their own pictures and where they're going to be works so much better. I know a lot of people have used Boardmaker to make a lot of the pictures, and that's a good program. But if you can actually put in real pictures, it just seems to help that story become real.
It's so much easier now.
It is.
With technology, if your phone matches up to your computer, you can just whip that out really quickly. This is a pause. I want to show you 2 things that I have found to be really handy. Have you guys seen a sprocket? Let's see if it's...
No.
This is a printer, and it prints pictures from your phone. Don't look at my phone.
Wow, that's pretty handy.
So you can print, it's about $100 on Amazon, and a really cool thing is that the pictures are sticker back. So you can print out this picture and then stick it to your folder, stick it to your walls or your cabinets or whatever you need. So to provide information about where things need to be put away. This game is stored in this drawer, kind of helps give independence to cleaning and putting things away. This has been really cool for labeling things. And then I accidentally came into this cool thing. I don't know if you guys have seen them. It's a Polaroid picture.
Yes.
This was my kid's birthday present that's now become my favorite tool. And it's because you have pictures instantly, right? And so kind of what I'm talking about, my kids actually did this. They took pictures of their games. Doc, I've been saying I was going to do this for a couple of years because my kids are pretty young and cleaning is just a lot of work. So the idea is on the drawers or the cabinets where these games need to be placed, I attach this however I'm comfortable doing it, and it shows them that's where this game goes. So I don't have to be over them all the time saying, put it where it goes. You know where it always is. It's in the same place. So those are some kind of cool things that I found. Besides just using your cell phone to make a social story, you could print out pictures like that. Those are, it gets a little costly printing all the pictures all the time, but
Right.
It's a fun, handy tool to have. One of the things I want to say with social stories is that it's not near as effective used just as a social story method, which means we read the story together and then I ask you questions. That is a step. That's a good step. But it is much more effective if we read this social story and then we role play it. We talk about it. Okay, we read we're going to wear masks. I'm going to put on my mask. Okay, you put on your mask. And when we're practicing that, that's where that reward can come in also. You put on your mask or you got your mask close to your face. There's high fives, rewards, tickles, you know, you're doing it, buddy, right? And so you role play what you want to happen. That takes it to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
Good?
Yeah.
Okay. This kind of, when we've been talking about it, that social story stuff is to teach new behaviors, like kind of this new going back into the buildings with masks on and those types of things, but they can also be to change old behaviors. So you find that your child urinates in the corner when you tell them it's time to go to bed. So then it drags it out. You don't have to go to bed yet because we've got to do a lot of cleaning procedure. So you could write a story about where do we go potty, right? And if it's time for bed, what does going to bed look like? And if I go to bed quickly, and quickly as my parents ask me to, I get to pick my bedtime story, or I get to leave the lights on for 10 minutes, or some type of beneficial thing to them. That's the positive reward for them to experience when they do that new and appropriate behavior. Okay, moving on. Ask yourself, do they need more assistance with this behavior, right? So I'm seeing a behavior and it may be to escape something. Are they escaping it because they need more help with it? That could be the thing. I'm expecting too much of them. One of the things that I've seen a lot right now is parents saying, I know they know how to do this, right? They know how. And so parents are kind of butting heads with their kids instead of just backing up and providing more assistance again. And so I would encourage you, one, to ask yourself, do they need more assistance? And if I know they know how to do it, potentially if I back up and provide a little bit more assistance with it, would they catch back on, reach positive praise and reward for it, and that will get that behavior occurring again, maybe even independently. Everybody's dealing with a lot of different variables right now. And so there are tasks that we know how to do that we just can't put the steps together, right? And so I think that that's a real struggle for individuals with disabilities. And so it's a good idea to come back in and do what we kind of call errorless teaching, where you help them do it without an error. So they feel better about it, you feel better about it, and then it's gonna help that behavior occur more often. Also, what you could potentially do is do what's called a task analysis. And a task analysis is where you just break down the steps for that task so that they can see each small component of it. This is also something that helps move towards independence. I keep mentioning independence because I have 2 small children, they're 5 and 7, and if they can do things independently, I'm happier. And I would imagine all parents would feel that way. But oftentimes our children with disabilities need more support in being independent. And sometimes that just little small support can really go a long ways for them. So if you think of a skill like sweeping the floor, and I'll bring this back up hopefully later, you need to not just say sweep the floor, we got to practice sweeping the floor. There's been kind of a really cool Pinterest thing out that I've seen done in a lot of life skills classes where they actually put like a painter's tape box on the floor and say everything needs to be swept into this area. So your task analysis, depending on your individual's level, could be pictures, or it could be words, or words and pictures. So it's time to sweep the floor. Go to the supply closet. There's a picture of the supply closet. Get the broom and the dustpan. Put the dustpan by the trash can, not on the table, okay? Because I see it go on the table a lot. Everything goes on the table, right? That's where parents will give some big behaviors. Don't put the grody dustpan on that table. So you tell them where to put it. And this is just really breaking down. What you're going to have to do is you do the task and think about each step. Okay, the dustpan is by trash. Now sweep under the table. Sweep the stuff under the table to the square. Sweep around the corners into the square. Sweep under, right? Where it's each and every step. And then when you're completed, you put these things back in the cabinet, and it just kind of breaking down those components. You got higher functioning guys. Again, I love that checklist. It really is validating to check something off the list, right? And it's something visual that they can show you. I did it, it's done. But it also starts really doing that long-term executive functioning where we're planning how to think about something and how to program that skill. So if they need more assistance in a skill and that's why they're not doing it, that's one way that you can break it down for them. It applies for toothbrushing. It applies for doing a worksheet, you know, break that thing down, get out your supplies, put your name on it, count to 10, do some deep breaths, do 3 problems, do a few jumping jacks, come back, you know, however you want to break that apart. Then, are we good there? Add more information, yes. See what we're lacking. Also, if you're lacking a part in that, you could bring back those social stories too and say, hey, they are exhibiting this problem behavior because they don't know how to ask a friend to play, right? They're hitting a friend and calling them a I'm sure that you've had that, right? Oh, usually yeah. It's much more than that, but right, they have finally found friends that they're doing online video games with, and they are losing friends left and right because all they know is to yell at them to do what they want. He doesn't have the skills. He needs some assistance in how to manage the group playing the game. How do you express what you would like the other players to do where they will want to listen to you, right? Where's the deficit and how can we teach it better? Right. A quick example of that, got to hang out at the beach yesterday. Texas beaches are different. They're really hard packed sand, so we can drive our cars on the beach and it helps us social distance. I'm giving that one. So I was out there with a friend, and our girls saw some boys playing the same, they were boogie boarding, and our girls kept kind of inappropriately trying to engage with them. They would just stare at them and wave. And they kept staring at them and waving. And so we kind of thought, we got to break this down to them. They need more help. What is it that you want to do? Do you just want them to wave back, or do you want to play with them? If you want them to play with you, what are some ways that you could talk to them beyond the wave? How do we get past the wave, right? So could you ask them to show you how to do some of their boogie board tricks? You know, like you kind of just have to think about what is it that they're lacking. They don't have this quite right, you know, and how can I teach them, assist them into getting that next step? Okay, for higher functioning individuals, I haven't done a lot of talk of this in previous talks, but self-awareness is a big thing. And I am a really big fan of self-monitoring. And I think that technology makes that pretty awesome, and something that you can do, even just making a Google form. So kind of what this might look like is maybe you have a loved one who makes a strange noise. And if you ask them about the strange noise, maybe it's clearing their throat, or I've seen a few where they kind of, it's just kind of something that's odd, and they're around typically developing peers, and their peers are noticing it. And if you point it out to your individual, they'll say, yeah, I noticed it sometimes, or sometimes they don't. Right. They can't change it if they're not aware of it. And so one thing is to kind of make them more aware of it and give them other alternative things to do. One of the things that I used this self-monitoring thing for was transitions in the hallways at school. There was a kid who kept getting in fights in school. He misunderstood people's cues, and it just led to fighting. So he got an escort. Somebody had to follow him everywhere. And he didn't like that, right? And so what we said is, hey, we're going to give you some things that you can do to get to the next class without fighting. And if you can show us that you're doing that for so long, then we'll drop the escort. And they were things like, I left my class 5 minutes early, which I'm able to do. I walked away when someone frustrated me. I got to my new class early. I walked at a fast pace, something like that. And so on his phone, when he got to his class, he did a Google form checklist, right? You just check it in, it graphs it for you to tell if he made it there successfully or not. And then as a parent, you can monitor that. So some of the systems I'll show you later, we could kind of talk about some self-monitoring. Bring it back up, Doc. But like, did you do your task? Did you do the 3 tasks that I asked before you got on social media? And so it could be something that they check on self-monitoring, say, yes, I did it. And they can kind of prove, right? And it is also that executive functioning, teaching themselves those skills. If they have to look at it once an hour to fill out the form, it starts really sticking into their brain.
Right.
How you doing, Doc?
Good. We're kind of need to start watching time a little bit here. Do you have that example you want to show there and back? You want to do that?
Yes. Let's move ahead. One of the things that really helps to decrease problem behavior is to stay busy with appropriate behaviors. So I want to show you 2 different types of, they're called task systems, and they are a way to organize how a child goes about their work. They're independent task stations. So I also want to kind of talk about how, one, these task systems give parents time away from their individual, and then it gives you time to come back and you will be teaching new skills with them, right?
Right.
I'm going to move the camera for us. I have them set up on our real big kid table back here. I'm doing like everybody else. I'm using what I have at home, so.
That's right.
Hang in there. Okay, so this idea is my kids at home, and these are activities I want them to do through the day. This could be just activities through the day because you're at home and you want to stay busy. Or these could be more academic tasks when you start school and you need to break down how they're doing their tasks. One of the most important things I need to stress in this is that it's independent. So the things that are in these bins are things they should be able to do without your help. They already know how to do them. All right, I'm gonna move you a little closer. So I've got images here. These images here, minus this one, match the images on the bins. So basically, this is a schedule telling them you got to do these corresponding tasks. So the idea is, let's see here. Nobody throw up from all the moving. I'm going to take the sunshine, I'm going to match it to the bin, and then I will pull out whatever needs to happen in this bin. I threw in a few examples, but really this is up to you guys to know, right? So I'm going to sort and roll socks. I'm going to sort coins. You don't leave both tasks in there. This is ideas. You rotate them. You can do this system multiple times a day, but you want to put in a fresh activity.
And it's best to have just one task in there at a time, right?
Yes. Yeah. Let me pull that out. That's my good organizational skills for you. Okay. So I have finished my sunshine task, so it leads me to the next task. Now this system, they work independently doing it, but at first you're going to have to kind of show them how to do it. Then I have some art, right? I'm going to do some art. This could take us all day. So there's a timer in here to say how much time we have with this art project, and then we're going to put it back in the box. I've done my 20, 30 minutes of my art project that I know how to do. Then I'm left with my Apple Jacks. I'm pull the Apple Jacks out. And this one I put flashcards because I was really getting creative. If we have to stay at home, you know, who knows what's happening. We're planning to go to school, but my kids need to know their math facts. So I'm going to have them call their Mimi. And Mimi's going to do math flashcards with them. Right. That gives them some social interaction, and they get to practice their facts. I also think this would be cool for a lot of people who have people asking how they can help. What can we do? Give them a task that they could do with your kid online, and it gets your kid talking to someone else, and it's someone who can kind of monitor their skills. And then they can get creative with how they teach it. If you can't do that, you know, throw in something that they can do on their own. I'm going to match the picture with the letter. This can be high or low skills, just things that are independent. And then there's one sticker left here, or one image, and it's mom's face. And I'm happy because you did it all right. When you bring this to me, I am trained. I know to go check your bins, acknowledge you've done them, great job, you did your work, and then I am the giver of your reward time, whatever that looks like. We're gonna go have some pool time outside. We'll go for a bike ride. You can get on your phone now, whatever that is, okay? Right. I'm gonna clear off the table and show just a little different version. This is more boring, right? More boring is my best terminology I got there. Let's think our higher functioning, higher tasks. And I'm not going to tell you in order. You've got these 3 folders you got to do, whatever's in there, right? So I'm going to just do them in order. I've got a book. I need to read my book. So when the book is done, I'm going to put it outside of the bin. This just organizes. I've got 3 things to do. You're going to want to have the supplies. If they need a pencil or crayons, they need to be in the bin with them to do it. I complete this. It's back in the folder. I have a journal here. Journal. I wanted you, and so if you need them to write in their journal, probably give them a topic to go with it. One of the things here, I thought of that broom, task analysis, sweeping the floor, give them a chore, put them in here, have them check it off, able to do that. I know. What I really wanted to stress about these activities, you teach them how to do it. You have to monitor it a couple times. Be highly rewarding when you're teaching them how to use the system. And then it fell off. When they get to the end of the folders, there's my face again. You can bring it to me, and we're going to talk about what type of rewards you want. And then I'll refill the folders while you're enjoying your reward. In these tasks, particularly the first set of task systems, I want you to note that I changed the type of activities. So one is more of an academic task. One is a fine motor task. One is an activity I enjoy. One engages me and other people. One gets me up and sweeping the floor. So what you want to do to prevent problem behavior, because I'm so overwhelmed with all this work, is rotate what they're doing. Kind of tell them the different types of tasks they're doing throughout the day. All right, let's move back. Thoughts, questions? Do I need to expand on that?
No, I think that's good. And what I like with that is by doing the different types of behavior, that's helped stimulates the mind there as well, too, yeah. Where you're preventing them from getting bored. We've got a question I want to make sure we have time to hit, because I think it's a topic and a question that really many of our families are experiencing. So let's just take a little bit with that. And it basically, they say, my son is 9 years old, has Down syndrome. He's very loving and connected. But when I ask or tell him to do something, big or small, he refuses. This could be something simple like putting a drink away or just turn his head away, or something big like when I tell him to go to the bathroom. And he will do, which we all know, the flop and drop. The worst part of it is when it comes to my husband, my son will immediately comply and do anything he asks. It is so frustrating. Help, what do I do? So how do you deal with behavior when you've got one parent who the child will listen to, comply, and do everything, but you got that other parent that no matter what can't ever seem to get anything done, listened to?
I'm gonna say, yeah, Mama, I feel your pain. It typically seems that way. One, as a mom and a parent, we're very close to the behavior, and we put a lot of our heart in the situation. We feel bad for our children, and I could give many examples, but I'm not going to for time. But you know, I have a master's degree in human behavior, and I've had to talk to my husband, who works in a chemical plant, and say, I don't know what we should do, because I am too close to my kids' behavior, and there's so much empathy going in. I'm going to put thoughts and feelings there that might not actually be there. And so, one, I would recommend to watch your husband and see what is the difference between the two of you. There is something called a discriminative stimulus, and that is just a cue that sometimes something's available and sometimes it's not, right? So between just me and Doc, right, one of us might indicate 3 times available, right? Or with me, it would probably be candy's coming, because I believe in using candy, right? And so when they see me, they may respond differently because they know good stuff's coming. And they would respond differently to Doc because he represents something different. Every one of us do this. And I see it with parents often, that one spouse represents, I can get away with more. They're the more lenient one, the more they feel sorry for the kid, or they're, you know, they don't want to hurt their feelings, or they think that if they're stern with them, that the child might not be as caring or loving with them. Whatever it is, you're responding differently. And so what I would ask you to do is just really clearly look at the difference between what your husband's doing and what you're doing, and look at that escape that we talked about earlier. He's getting out of the things that you ask him to do, and how is he not getting out with your husband? So, and it may be that you have to think retrospectively, because your husband has some instructional control with him, which means he says something and he'll do it, right? He's built that rapport. And it could be that the consequence after, you know, if he hit the floor and rolled, what did we call it? Flop and drop? Oh. I always call it the alligator roll, right? Potentially a long time ago, if a flop and drop happened with your husband said, oh no, son, you know, and picked him up, or daughter, I didn't get what it was, your child, and picked them up and walked them to the bathroom, said, you're going to go to the bathroom. And it may be that you waited it out and said, he's on the floor, he can't go to the potty. And in that instant, they get out of the demand. And so I think potentially he's getting out of your demands, and I think you know that, right? I wouldn't address every one of those at one time, but I would look at what is one of those behaviors that when I say it, I'm gonna hold to my guns, and I'm gonna say, you're gonna do it. And it potentially even might be something that you bring to him. If he has dropped and flopped, I don't know how big he is. If you can pick him up and take him to the bathroom, that's great. But if not, find something that you can bring to him while he's on the floor and say, you're still gonna do it, right? If I said, eat your peas, I'm gonna bring your peas, and we're gonna try to eat them. And kind of take the emotion out of that and say, when Mama says something, we mean it. And kind of just do that, like I talked about, that snowball, knock one of those off at a time. And the more that he experiences you holding to that rule and that directive, the more likely he's going to be to follow your demands. So your consequences, you're going to keep that demand on and he's going to do it. And then the second thing is you want to praise and reward for following your directions. So it becomes a pleasant thing also. It's a, yes, you are listening to mama. And so you can kind of have that fun praise time in it. And just know we all do it. We all flex parenting where we let them get away with stuff. And I think it's about every Christmas time my husband and I go, man, our kids are really annoying, and we love them to death, but man, they're really annoying us. They're not doing anything we say. And we realize we've given a lot of warnings and they learn it quickly. They learn it real quickly. And so we kind of tighten back up and say, when I say it, you're going to do it. Right. And for a while, we follow through with that. And then we, have a little drift again. So I think that's your first steps. Get tough, mama.
Yeah. And I think, maybe a couple things, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here. I think one, like you're saying, is the consistency is going to be a big part there. It's that whole, when you let your guard down, and let them get away with something once, it's the example you gave earlier with the look, and the candy or whatever it was, that, a couple of years later, your daughter remembered that and still trying to do it. That's the power of this, where, it may be that dad doesn't allow that. And I've seen the same thing with me in ministry, where I've got one little guy who loves to push the limits on everybody. And I turn the corner and immediately, sorry, Doc, because he knows he can't do that with me. And as soon as I leave, he's trying to do it again. And it's one of the things a lot of times, we feel bad for the kids and go, oh, we don't want to do that. But it's just that consistency doing it. And then maybe the other thing here that I think you kind of mentioned it, I'd say pick your battle, especially in this, you can't conquer all of them at once. So maybe there's that one big one that you're like, okay, we've got to work on this one. And maybe it's the going to the bathroom. That might be the big one. Work on that one and try to work on that one and try to get the behavior that you want. And that, instead of trying to do every behavior, I think my experience is that you're just helping your sanity in that case with it. And I think if you can start seeing success with one, then you're able to build on it with the other ones. Is that true?
Absolutely. Gosh, so many things. One is, be careful. If you have a loved one who has the ability to take it to the next level, you need to be ready to handle the next level. Because if you say this is it, you have to handle whatever comes after and still present the demand. So this is kind of like the tough love side, right? I want to bring two things back for, it's going to make that tough, you're going to do that tough love in combination, but there's the antecedent strategies had real success with video modeling when kids are following directions. So have your phone ready time and think, I'm going to give him a direction that I know he's probably going to do. It's called a high probability demand. I'm going to ask him to go blah, blah, blah. Get your video camera out and video him doing it, and then praise him for doing what mama said, right? Like you did, you are on top of what a responsible man you are, whatever type of praise he likes, and then let him watch that over and over again. I do what mama says, right? And you can remind him with that too. So before you're going to give him a demand that you typically see some defiance, you can show that and then say, hey, let's go to the bathroom time. And as he even, potentially he drops to the floor, but he starts to get up, you can get ready. See, you're getting up. I'm ready to have a party, to where you're kind of bringing in that praise and that good time. And then also anytime you just catch him doing something that you like, you're on the potty, you have brushed your teeth, or one of these demands that you're having a problem with, you become the person that praises and rewards that. And that in itself gives you authority, and he wants to please you. So I don't know him, but he sounded like he was a real personable guy. And so praise is probably a great, easy thing to go with.
Right. Well, these are all great. It's, as usual, our time has just flown here. I think we could have, gone another hour or two on this, and we'll definitely have to readdress this. And we are going to have another talk here in another few weeks, where we're going to be specifically addressing behavior in the ministry setting, because that's another big one, and just a whole another area with that. So glad to
Yeah.
have you coming back for that.
Me too.
But next week, our talk with Doc, want you to come back. It's going to be another very important one that especially ministry leaders need to be a part of, and that is going to be how to include and welcome individuals who are nonverbal and speech delayed in your ministry. And if you don't know how to work with them, a lot of behavior can come out of that. So if we can figure out how to welcome them, how to have them involved in ministry, that'll be key. Ivana Sandusky, who's a speech pathologist, is going to be joining us next week. We're going to have a lot of great ideas on how to welcome them, how to have them involved. So make sure you come back for that. It'll be a great time. Again, we'd love to have you partner with us on things. If you'd love to help financially partner with us to help keep our webinars going, you can go to soarspecialneeds.org/donate to do that. But again, Tiffany, thank you so much for today. Loved having you here. Stay safe with the storm that's coming into Houston there and everything. But really appreciate your time and so much here. And we thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the community you're building, Doc. It needs to happen, and people need resources. So this is great.
Fantastic. Well, thank you.
Yeah,
have a great day. We'll see you.